So today I want to talk about one of my favorite plays by some guy named William Shakespeare, Macbeth. This is the new movie directed and written by Joel Cohen, or rewritten by Joel Cohen, starring Denzel Washington as Macbeth and Frances McDormand, Cohen's wife, as Lady Macbeth. Before I get into it, I'm going to do this from time to time because you told me to. You, the audience, told me to. I want to plug the book that's coming out in April and ask you if you're interested, if you would please go on and pre-order it, which will help me get more orders. The book is called The Truth and Beauty, a fantastic title, no matter what Ben Shapiro says. And it's available for pre-order, and it's about the Romantic poets and how reading the Romantic poets can inform the way you read the Gospels, can actually change the way you understand the words of Jesus Christ. And the reason I mention it here is because many of the ideas that come into these cultural segments come from the things that are in this book. And so if you like these cultural segments, you're going to really like The Truth and Beauty. I just this moment, I got a letter from the editor at Zondervan, actually he's the publisher of Zondervan, telling me that the Barnes & Noble representative read it and wrote him a fan letter, which almost never happens. He said this book is unique and it delivers large on Klavan's brilliant thought processes, and that's pretty good from Barnes & Noble. So please go on and pre-order The Truth and Beauty if you would. And like I said, a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about originate in this book. Macbeth, it's a tremendous film, and Denzel Washington, who I've always thought was the best movie star actor we had, not the best actor we had, who may be like Anthony Hopkins possibly, but I always thought he was the best movie star who was also an actor, and he outdoes himself. He just goes beyond anything I've ever seen him do on this. He is Frances McDormand, a sensational actress, does a sensational job as Lady Macbeth, but Denzel blows this thing away. He was in another Shakespeare, one of my other favorite Shakespeare, my favorite Shakespeare movie. This may be up there now, but Henry V by Kevin Branagh. But Kevin Branagh also made Much Ado About Nothing, and Denzel is in that too and does a good job, but not like this. I mean, obviously the depth of his part in that was not anywhere near as big. This is just, he speaks beautifully. His language is clearer than I've ever heard it be before. His understanding of the part is very, very deep. I mean, there's some brilliant touches by Cohen as well. He uses this one character, Ross. Somebody else did this in an older movie, but he uses him as a kind of mysterious historical figure who actually makes the action of the play go on beyond the play itself. But his greatest innovation in this is that he makes the three witches, who are the servants of the devil, he makes them played by one actress who sometimes comes together as one person and sometimes divides into three people. So we're reminded of the Trinity. They are the opposite of the Trinity. And I've talked about Macbeth before, and I'm not going to go over it before, just to touch on the fact that Macbeth is about a man who detaches himself from the moral order. And because he detaches himself from the moral order, this supernatural level of meaning that means that torturing a child is bad and giving charity is good, that we all that we should attach ourselves to. Because he detaches it, life becomes meaningless to him, and he makes this famous speech, the tomorrow speech.
Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out brief candle. Life is but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
And of course, and I've talked about this before, and this is also something I cover at length in The Truth and Beauty, this speech, this famous nihilistic speech, makes no sense because he is, in fact, a player strutting and fretting on the stage. He is delivering a meaning into the play, and he's saying the meaning of life is that life is meaningless, which is a nonsense. Nihilism is a nonsense. It is a thing he has done to himself by making choices. The play starts with the witches saying fair is foul and foul is fair, that the morality of the world has become reversed, possibly through sin. They don't say that, but that's possibly what he means. And Macbeth enters the play. His first line is, he's coming from a battle which he has won. And he says, so foul and fair a day I have not seen. So there's a choice. There's a choice that can be made between foul and fair. And he is going to make that choice, make a moral choice. And in Macbeth, and again, this is in The Truth and Beauty at length, I talk about this at length, the source of that moral choice comes from women's bodies. Now, that seems like a strange thing to say. I'll tell you a quick funny story. I sent out the Truth and Beauty for blurbs, for endorsements. They go on the cover, this is a wonderful book, and got some wonderful endorsements from some intellectuals I respect very highly, including Ben Shapiro. But excellent endorsements. But one famous Catholic guy would not endorse it, wrote me a very sweet, lovely letter, not mean at all, but he said he couldn't endorse it because it was heretical about the Blessed Virgin Mary. Because in the book, I point out that in Scripture, it's very hard to make the case that Mary was a perennial virgin, right? And what I revere about Mary is that I don't think she was a perennial virgin. I think she performed this miracle of giving birth in her virginity, and then became a wife and had other children. And that means that she was a woman. And that's, to me, so much more beautiful. I was in the National Gallery in D.C. the other day, and I was looking at the pictures of the Madonna one after another, each one with a different face, because each one was a different model. And you could see that they were real people because they had real human faces. They were brilliantly painted models. And the effect of watching one after another was to understand that each woman in herself has the Madonna in her and is in some way the Madonna. And Mary was, in fact, the Madonna. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And as you go through the gallery and you see the Renaissance move on, suddenly they begin painting classical subjects, and there's a great deal of nudity, and women's sexual beauty comes across in this in those paintings. But the thing about that is, if that's all you see of a woman, then a woman's body is simply about men. It is simply about men's reactions to her. Whereas a woman who has given birth and who is feeding a child out of her body has gone beyond her relationship with men to her relationship with creation, which actually brings that Madonna aspect of women into play. Healthy men love women's bodies both as attracting them, but also as this incredible machine of creation that is in part a godly thing. And mothers, as I've talked about this before, but it's worth going back, they do more than create bodies. They create minds and souls through their interaction. The mirror neurons in the baby's mind are not separate, and they're not, a baby is not an individual until it has interacted with its mother, hopefully in love. And this is one of the things that William Wordsworth, the poet, talked about, that love helps create a human being who can interact with creation in alliance with what Wordsworth calls the one great mind, with God. And so woman not just creates this connection to the moral order in nature, and she is also, which is a collaboration with God. We don't say, like I have a man's body, but now I'm a woman because I feel like a woman. No, we say I have a man's body that creates certain moral ideas in me and certain moral responsibilities in me. And then you start to play out that string. So you're in collaboration with reality all the time. That's how you get to morality. That's how you get to a moral vision, not on your own, not the way you feel, not whether you care or not whether you're happy to do it. You do it by reasoning and feeling your way in a relationship with God and with God's creation. We're men and women. We can't change that, but we have latitude in what kinds of men and women we become. So just as the three witches are the mirror image, the evil image of the Trinity, Macbeth's marriage is the mirror image of creation. In creation, God takes woman out of man to create flesh of his flesh and bone of his bone in order to give him companionship, in order to give him an other self that he can relate to, which creates the moral world. That in that relationship, that one relationship, the only human relationship there is, that is where the moral world on earth is created. Morality is about the way we treat each other. Lady Macbeth fears that her husband is not man enough to kill his way to the throne, to murder his way to the throne. And she says, he's too full of the milk of human kindness. And now this is cut 25. And before Macbeth comes home, where she's going to convince him to do the murder, she says, unsex me here. So listen to this speech, Frances McDormand.
Come, you spirits, attend on mortal thoughts. Unsex me here. and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood. Stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breasts, and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief.
So that's very, very physical thing, right? Because even though life in some sense is allegorical, and that is that our lives are physical, but there is this supernatural meaning that we are actually playing out in life. There's no separating the meaning from the life. There's no separating the flesh from the spirit. It is all one thing. This is good Christian theology. It is all flesh and it's not, you're not a little can with a ghost inside. You are actually an expression of spirit. Your body is like the word that expresses the idea. You cannot express the idea without the word. So the way you live matters. And this is what Christianity is. It is a way of living. It is a way of making that connection with the supernatural world. And so she is trying to take that out of her nature. Turn the milk in my breast, which is made for nurturance, which is made for life, turn it into gall. And notice she's talking to the spirits that tend on mortal thought. She is saying there is this other world, this invisible world, but it has to act on the flesh. This is a world filled with spiritual meaning, but she's replacing the better angels of our nature with the bad angels of our nature to get rid of what she calls a natural remorse. Shakespeare is saying that there is a natural connection to this, that we are given a moral mind. This is one of the things, this is a very important point. The philosopher Kant makes this point, that Scripture would not work. Everybody says, well, it's in Scripture. There it is right there. The morals are right there in Scripture. Scripture wouldn't work if we didn't recognize morality when we saw it, right? There are things in Scripture that we explain away. If you took them absolutely literally, they would make no sense. But we understand that there's an interchange between us and God, that even when God communicates with us, we are a part of that communication. And later, Macbeth comes home, and he's already said, all right, I'm going to kill the king. But then he talks to the king again, and the king's kind of a nice guy. And he says, you know what, I'm not going to do this. He's going to promote me. And if the witches have predicted that I'll become king, but if chance is going to make me king, let chance make me king. And Lady Macbeth immediately, and this is what's the opposite of creation, she immediately starts to bring him into her realm instead of separating from him as she does as the woman does in the Garden of Eden, and becoming his companion and the mirror of himself and the beginning of moral relations. Here's that interchange between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth.
I dare do all that may become a man, who dares do more is none.
What beast was then made to break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you are a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you had done to this.
That's pretty powerful stuff. I have given suck, and I would take the baby from my breast and dash his brains out if I had given my word as you have given your word to kill the king. So we know that Lady Macbeth has had a child, and one of the great mysteries in literature is we don't know where that child is. We don't know whether he died, which would be an interesting psychological idea. Is that why she feels so bitter about her womanhood? Is it because her child has died that she feels cheated, that she feels she poured her love into this creature and it was taken away, and now she does not want to be a woman anymore? She wants the milk of her breast to turn to gall. We just don't know. We don't know the answer to that question. But it is, maybe that's what's destroyed her heart. But the idea, she doesn't want to turn Macbeth into a man. What she wants to do is turn herself into a woman, a femininity-less woman. And she wants to turn him into the same thing. It is the opposite of creation. The creation of woman is supposed to, it makes a man out of a man, right? Because a man is nothing without comparing himself to a woman, right? If you don't have those two things, then you're just something, you're just human. But it is the separation, this beautiful separation into two sexes that she is putting an end to. Macbeth is driven mad by the idea, the children in Macbeth are very important. I mean, he's driven mad by the idea that Banquo's child, the witches predict that Banquo's child will inherit the crown. So the crown is useless to him if he can't pass it on. And this is another reason that we wonder what happened to Lady Macbeth's child. And he then starts to murder children. One of the scenes, I mean, it actually, in this film, actually brought me to tears. The scene was so powerful that he actually wipes out one of the characters. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a famous play. He wipes out one of the characters' children, which then empowers that character to come after Macbeth. And finally, the witches predict that he will be safe because no man born of woman can kill him. But the character who finally comes after him was delivered by cesarean, so he wasn't born of woman, he was taken out of woman. So the entire thing, the nature of a woman's creative power, this incredible thing, generates the morality of the play, and generates, by taking away that creative power and taking away that womanliness, the world foul becomes fair, and fair becomes foul. Have you ever thought about the fact that if you read dystopian fiction, think about like the most famous dystopian fiction. I won't count 1984 because that's really about politics. But if you take Brave New World, if you take Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, if you take Lois Lowry's The Giver, all of them create these kind of horrible dystopian worlds. And all of them begin with the idea that you have to do something about women giving birth. The government has to take control of this, or render it meaningless, or render it impossible. In The Giver, they give people pills to kill their sexual drive, and they only have a few women who create it. In Brave New World, of course, they create them through machines. It always is this birth thing that has to be taken over by the government. And this is the world we live in today. You know, I just searched The Atlantic about having children. And this Google page comes out, A World Without Children, The Atlantic. What becoming a parent really does to your happiness. It ruins your happiness. 2 reasons parents regret having kids. Why women choose not to have children. The left, just like the devil, is trying to separate us from this most important part of humanity. One day they will do it. One day you will be able to have a child in a big toaster. And women will then cease to be women, and human beings will cease to be human beings. That's not the science we want. That's not the science we want to support. We want a human science. If we do not honor this thing in women, if we do not respect it and elevate it and support it, we will lose our humanity. And I guarantee you it's going to happen, but it may not happen to all of us, because some of us will not accept it. That's the story of Macbeth, and I think Macbeth is a play you can talk about endlessly, but I did want to talk about this. And again, I'm going to ask you please to go on. If you like these segments, go on and get The Truth and Beauty, pre-order it, because that's where a lot of this thought is coming from. If you want more Klavan-y goodness, subscribe and like us, and subscribe to the Andrew Klavan Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.